All right, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always fun to dive in.
So it looks like we've got a request from someone hoping to stay a bit longer in Canada.
Ah, the Canadian dream, eh?
Exactly, and they sent over this video from, let's see, Canada Immigration, all about work permit extensions.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It is, but let's be honest, sometimes this stuff can feel like you're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in the dark.
Definitely, lots of moving parts.
But that's why we're here, right? To shed some light on it.
Absolutely, break it down.
And trust me, figuring this out could be huge. Seriously, it could open up a whole world of possibilities in Canada.
Yeah, you really don't want to miss out on any opportunities.
Okay, so first things first. How do we even know if we qualify for one of these extensions?
Right off the bat, that's got to be the starting point, figuring out if you're eligible.
Makes sense. Got to make sure you're even in the game.
Exactly, like you said, can't solve the puzzle if you don't have the right pieces.
So the video mentions meeting the requirements of your current work permit. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you got to be following the rules of your current permit.
But hold on, there's this thing about changing the conditions of your permit, not just extending the time.
Ooh, interesting.
What's the deal with that?
So it's like this, your work permit, it's not just a calendar thing, it's also about what you can actually do while you're in Canada.
I see where you're going with this.
So imagine you've got that employer-specific permit, and boom, you get a promotion.
All right, I like where this is going.
Maybe more responsibilities, different location, but still with the same company.
So your work permit needs an update to match that.
Exactly. You got to make sure everything lines up.
Okay, so extending isn't just about more time, it's about making sure your permit reflects your situation.
Yeah, because things change, right? Your career evolves, your goals shift. It's all got to be reflected in that permit.
Now, I know we've touched on this before, but just to make sure everyone's on the same page, could you quickly break down those two big categories of work permits again? Employer-specific and open work permits.
Right, so employer-specific, it's like it sounds, you're tied to a specific employer and a specific job offer.
Got it. So your right to work in Canada depends on that exact job.
Yep, your stay is linked to that specific employment.
And an open work permit gives you more, well, openness.
Way more flexibility. You can work for any employer in Canada, no restrictions.
Okay, so let's paint a picture here. You're on that employer-specific permit, and your dream job opens up at another company.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
What do you do?
Can't just extend in that case. Got to apply for a whole new work permit.
Ah, so it's not a one-size-fits-all situation?
Different scenarios call for different solutions.
And what about those on a spousal open work permit? Say their partner is here studying, what happens with their permit?
In that case, the partner's got to maintain their student status for the open work permit to remain valid.
Okay, so it's like a chain reaction, everything's connected.
Yep, it's a whole system, lots of interconnected pieces.
Got it. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. The video lays out the step-by-step process, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the how-to's super important.
But there's this big emphasis on applying early,
Like really early.
at least 30 days before your current permit expires.
Ideally even sooner if you can swing it.
Why is that so crucial? Is it just about avoiding a last-minute scramble?
It's more than that. It's about this thing called maintained status.
Maintain status. Okay, break that down first. What does that even mean?
So think of it as like a safety net, a temporary shield while you're waiting for that decision on your extension.
Okay, I like the sound of a safety net.
Once you've submitted your application all filled out, you're good to go.
Good to go, meaning?
You can stay in Canada, keep working, all under the conditions of your current permit.
Phew. Okay, so no stressing about being stuck in limbo while they process everything.
Exactly. No worries about overstaying, you're covered.
So even if a dream job pops up while you're waiting, you can jump on it without freaking out about your legal status.
Exactly. You've got that peace of mind, that maintained status backing you up.
That is huge. A major stress reliever for sure.
Definitely takes a weight off your shoulders.
But hold on, there's a catch, right? You have to apply before your current permit expires for this to work.
Yeah, that's the key. Get that application in on time, or you miss out on that safety net.
All right, so that early application is non-negotiable.
It's like insurance. You don't want to wait till you need it to realize you don't have it.
And speaking of the application itself, the video is all about those digital documents,
Oh
right?
yeah, everyone's got to be scanned and ready to upload.
So that's a good reminder for everyone listening. Double check you have all your ducks in a row, digitally speaking.
Before you even start filling out that application, yeah.
All right, so to sum it all up, figure out if you're eligible, get those digital files prepped, and apply early to snag that maintained status superpower.
Those are the golden rules for sure.
Now, we've hit that submit button. We're officially in maintain status mode. What happens next? What's the waiting game like?
So now, you play the waiting game.
The waiting game.
Sounds fun.
It can be a bit nerve-wracking.
Oh, I bet. But at least you're not in limbo, right? You can still live your life, keep working, all that good stuff.
Right. That maintained status is a real game changer.
It really is. Gives you that breathing room.
Okay, so we sent off our application. We're patiently, or maybe not so patiently, waiting. But what if, for whatever reason, extending your work permit just isn't possible?
The dreaded what if.
Yeah, the video mentions some other options for sticking around in Canada.
Gotta have a backup plan just in case.
Exactly. So walk us through those. What are our choices here?
All right, so one big one that often comes up is applying for permanent residency.
The holy grail for many.
It is. Think of it like, going from renting to owning your place in Canada.
The ultimate commitment. But I gotta admit, that whole permanent residency process seems pretty daunting.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming. Lots of paperwork, lots of requirements.
Where do you even start?
Well, first and foremost, you got to do your research, figure out which program aligns with your situation.
So someone listening might be thinking, okay, permanent residency sounds amazing, but how do I even know where to begin? What's your go-to advice for those feeling lost in the PR maze?
The Canadian government's immigration website. It's like a treasure trove of information. Seriously, you can find details on every program imaginable. They even have online tools to help you see if you're eligible.
Okay, that's a good starting point, but even with all that info, I imagine it can still feel pretty confusing.
It definitely can be. There's a lot to digest.
So what do you do when you're feeling lost in a sea of immigration jargon and specific requirements?
Well, that's where an immigration consultant can be a real lifesaver. They know the ins and outs of the system, can guide you through the process.
Like a trusty guide through the immigration wilderness?
Exactly. They can help you choose the right path, avoid any unexpected pitfalls.
So we've covered permanent residency, but what about the study permit route? Feels a bit more, I don't know, accessible, at least as a first step.
Yeah, for sure. It can be a good way to gain some Canadian experience, boost your skills.
So with a study permit, you can enroll in all sorts of programs, right? Universities, colleges, the whole shebang.
Yep, as long as it's a designated learning institution, you're good to go.
So someone could potentially study something related to their field, earn a Canadian credential, and maybe that even improves their chances for a different work permit or even, down the line, permanent residency.
Exactly. Think of it like a stepping stone, a strategic pathway to bigger goals.
And then there's that bridging open work permit, the BOWP that the video mentioned.
The BOWP, yeah.
Can you remind us who that's for and why it's such a big deal?
So the BOWP is specifically for those who are already in the process of applying for permanent residency.
Okay, so they're kind of in between stages.
Exactly, and it acts as a bridge, allows them to keep working while they're waiting for that PR decision.
Makes sense because that permanent residency process can sometimes feel like it takes forever.
Oh, it can be a long wait, definitely.
So instead of twiddling your thumbs in limbo, the BOWP lets you keep earning, keep living your life, and not put everything on hold.
Yeah, provides stability, keeps things moving forward.
All this talk about waiting and deadlines is making me think, what happens if someone totally misses the deadline to apply for an extension? Are they just out of luck?
Well, it's definitely not ideal,
I can imagine.
but there might be a few options, depending on the situation.
Like what? What are you talking about here?
One possibility is applying for restoration of status.
Restoration of status. That sounds serious.
It is. It's a way to regain your legal status if you've overstayed your permit.
So it's like a second chance, but not a guaranteed thing.
Exactly, and it comes with extra fees, a more complex application process.
So better to avoid that whole mess by applying early, right?
Absolutely. Always the best approach.
Okay, we've talked about the steps for extending a work permit, why applying early is crucial, and even what to do if you miss that deadline.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But I'm curious about the bigger picture.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
The video really focuses on the how to.
The practical stuff.
But what about the why? Why are people even thinking about extending their work permits? What are they hoping to achieve in the grand scheme of things?
You're hitting on something really important here.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the nitty-gritty, the paperwork, the deadlines.
Oh, for sure. It can be a real whirlwind.
But we gotta remember to ask ourselves, what's the purpose of all this? What's the end goal?
So it's not just about extending a piece of paper, it's about figuring out how this fits into your overall vision for your life in Canada.
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
Are you aiming for permanent residency? Are you trying to gain specific work experience to make your application stronger? Those are some big questions.
Those are the questions that really matter, the ones that'll guide your decisions.
I love that. It's not just about ticking boxes on a form, it's about taking control of your future, making choices that align with your dreams.
And that brings us to something I think everyone listening needs to hear.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on us.
This deep dive, it's a great starting point, a solid foundation.
We've covered a lot of the basics, the essential info.
But it's just the tip of the iceberg.
There's always more to learn, more to explore.
The Canadian immigration landscape, it's constantly evolving. There's always something new to discover.
So this is just the beginning, the first step on a much bigger journey.
Exactly. And as you continue on this path, remember to stay informed, be adaptable, and most importantly, never lose sight of your goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that in mind, I think it's only fair to leave our listener with a little something to ponder, something to really spark some reflection.
Oh, I like that. A little food for thought.
Hit us with it. What's the big question we should be asking ourselves?
So the video we've been talking about, it's all about the how-to of extending a work permit.
The nuts and bolts, the step-by-step process.
But I think the real power lies in asking ourselves, what are your dreams, your aspirations for your life in Canada? What does success look like for you? And how does this work permit extension fit into that bigger, more personalized vision?
Wow, those are powerful questions. Really gets you thinking about the bigger picture.
It's not just about filling out forms and meeting deadlines. It's about making choices that genuinely align with your goals and aspirations.
It's about building a future you're excited about.
Exactly. And as you continue on this journey, remember, you don't have to go it alone.
Oh, so true. There's a whole network of support out there.
There's the government's website, tons of resources there, and of course, experienced immigration consultants who can guide you through the process.
And don't forget those online communities, connecting with others going through the same thing.
That sense of community can be so valuable, knowing you're not alone in this.
So to wrap things up, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We've talked about the steps to extend a work permit, the importance of applying early, those alternative pathways if extending isn't possible.
And most importantly, we've started to explore the why behind it all.
Why are you even considering this? What are your dreams? What does your ideal future in Canada look like?
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about paperwork and deadlines, it's about creating a life you love.
Exactly, and we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the inspiration to do just that.
So, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Canadian work permit extensions.
We hope you found it helpful, maybe even a little bit empowering.
And as you continue to navigate this process, remember, you've got this.
Stay informed, stay adaptable, and stay true to your goals.
We're rooting for you every step of the way.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of Canadian immigration.
Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep chasing those Canadian dreams.
See you next time.
All right, that's a wrap for today.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so we're in this maintained status, kind of just hanging out, waiting for the decision.
Yep, the waiting game can be a bit of a nail biter.
But hey, at least we're not in limbo, right? We can keep working, living our lives.
Exactly, that's the beauty of maintained status.
Okay, so we've submitted that application, fingers crossed, but what if, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out?
Always good to have a plan B.
Right, so what are our options if extending that work permit just isn't in the cards? The video mentioned a few alternatives.
Yeah, gotta explore those other pathways, keep those Canadian dreams alive.
All right, so lay it on us. What are our choices here?
Well, one that often pops up is applying for permanent residency.
Okay, that's a big one, definitely a goal for many.
It's like, the ultimate commitment, putting down roots.
Instead of just dipping our toes in the water, we're going all in.
Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame.
But I gotta be honest, that whole permanent residency process, it feels a bit intimidating.
Oh yeah, it can be a bit of a beast. Lots of paperwork, lots of steps.
So where do you even begin? I mean, for someone listening who's thinking, okay, permanent residency sounds great, but how do I even wrap my head around all of this?
Well, first things first, head over to the Canadian government's immigration website.
Okay, that seems like a logical starting point.
It's a gold mine of information. Seriously, you can find details on every single program, every requirement.
They've got it all laid out, huh?
Yep, they even have these online tools to help you figure out which programs you might be eligible for.
That's pretty handy.
Oh yeah, it can save you a lot of time and hassle.
So you can kind of get a sense of where you stand, what your options are.
Exactly, it's like a roadmap. Helps you navigate the whole PR landscape.
But even with all that information at your fingertips, I bet it can still feel pretty overwhelming.
It definitely can. There's a lot to digest.
So, what do you do when you're feeling lost in a sea of immigration jargon and specific requirements?
Well, in those cases, an immigration consultant can be a lifesaver.
Okay, so they're like our immigration Sherpas, guiding us through the treacherous terrain.
Exactly. They know all the shortcuts, all the potential pitfalls. They can really make the process a lot smoother.
So they can help you choose the right path, make sure you're not missing any crucial details.
Yep. They can be an invaluable resource, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Makes sense. So we've got permanent residency on the table, but what about the study permit route? That feels a bit more, I don't know, approachable maybe, at least as a first step.
Oh yes, studying in Canada, it can be a great way to gain some valuable experience, boost your skills, and who knows, maybe even open doors to other opportunities down the line.
So with a study permit, you can enroll in all sorts of programs, right? Universities, colleges, anything like that.
Yep, pretty much. As long as it's a designated learning institution, you're good to go.
So someone could potentially study something related to their field, earn a Canadian credential, and maybe that even strengthens their profile for a different work permit later on, or even permanent residency.
Exactly. Think of it as a strategic move, a way to build up your credentials and increase your chances of staying in Canada long term.
And then there's that bridging open work permit, the BOWP that the video mentioned.
Ah, yes, the BOWP, that's a good one.
Can you remind us who that's for and why it's such a big deal?
So the BOWP is specifically designed for those who are already in the process of applying for permanent residency.
Okay, so they're kind of in this waiting period, hoping to get that PR status.
Exactly, and the BOWP basically bridges the gap, allows them to keep working while their PR application is being processed.
That's huge, because that permanent residency process can take quite a while, right?
Oh yeah, sometimes it can feel like an eternity.
So instead of just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, they can keep earning a living, keep contributing to the Canadian economy.
Yep, it keeps things moving forward, provides some much-needed stability during a pretty uncertain time.
All this talk about waiting and deadlines is making me think, what happens if someone totally drops the ball and misses the deadline to apply for a work permit extension? Are they just out of luck?
Well, ideally, you want to avoid that situation at all costs.
Of course, but life happens, things slip through the cracks. What are their options if they find themselves in that predicament?
One possibility is applying for restoration of status.
Restoration of status, that sounds pretty intense.
It can be a bit more complicated, definitely more hoops to jump through.
So what does it entail?
Essentially, it's a way to regain your legal status in Canada if you've overstayed your permit.
So it's like a second chance, but it's not a guarantee, right?
Exactly. There's certain requirements you need to meet, and it comes with additional fees, a more rigorous application process.
So it's definitely not the ideal route. Better to avoid that whole scenario by applying early, right?
Absolutely. Prevention is always better than cure.
Okay, so we've covered those steps to extend a work permit, why applying early is like having that golden ticket, and even what to do if you find yourself in a didn't apply in time emergency.
We've laid out the groundwork, the essential info.
But I want to shift gears a bit, talk about the bigger picture.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
The video really focuses on the how-to, the practical steps.
The nuts and bolts of it all.
But I'm curious about the why. Why are people even considering extending their work permits in the first place? What are they hoping to achieve? What's their long-term vision?
That's such an important question. It's easy to get caught up in the technicalities, the paperwork, the deadlines.
Oh, for sure. It can be a real whirlwind.
But we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, what's the point of all this? What's the end goal?
What's the driving force behind all these applications and extensions?
Exactly. And those answers are going to be different for everyone.
So it's not just about extending a piece of paper. It's about figuring out how this fits into your overall vision for your life in Canada.
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
Are you dreaming of permanent residency? Are you trying to gain specific work experience to make your application stronger? These are the questions that can really guide your decisions.
They're the questions that really matter, the ones that will help you choose the right path.
I love that. It's not just about ticking boxes on a form, it's about taking control of your future, making choices that align with your dreams and aspirations.
And that brings us to something crucial that I think everyone listening needs to hear.
Okay, I'm all ears.
This deep dive has given you a solid overview of work permit extensions. But remember, it's just the beginning.
It's a starting point, a foundation.
The Canadian immigration landscape, it's vast, it's complex, there's always more to learn.
So this is just the first step on a much bigger journey.
Exactly. And as you continue to explore your options, Remember to stay informed, stay adaptable, and most importantly, never lose sight of your goals.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that in mind, I think it's only fair to leave our listener with a little something to ponder, a question to really spark some reflection.
Oh, I like that. A little food for thought to chew on.
Hit us with it. What's the big question we should all be asking ourselves?
The video we've been discussing, it's really focused on the how-to of extending a work permit.
The nuts and bolts, the step-by-step process.
But I think the more powerful questions are, what are your dreams, your aspirations? What does success look like for you in Canada? And how does this work permit extension fit into that bigger, more personalized vision?
Wow, those are some heavy-hitting questions. Really gets you thinking about the bigger picture.
It's not just about paperwork and deadlines. It's about crafting a life that truly resonates with your values, your goals, your dreams.
It's about building a future that excites you, a future where you can thrive.
Exactly. And remember, as you embark on this journey, you don't have to go it alone.
Oh, so true. There's a whole world of support out there.
The government's website is packed with information. There are experienced immigration consultants who can guide you, and there are even online communities where you can connect with others who are going through similar experiences.
That sense of community, that shared journey, can be so valuable, so reassuring.
Absolutely. Knowing you're not alone in this can make all the difference.
Okay, so to wrap up this part of our deep dive, we've talked about the steps to extend a work permit, the importance of applying early, those alternative pathways if extending isn't an option.
We've explored the practical side of things, the nuts and bolts, the process.
But more importantly, we've started to delve into the why behind it all.
Why are you even considering this?
Yeah.
What are your dreams? What does your ideal future in Canada look like?
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about paperwork and deadlines, it's about creating a life you love, a life that's meaningful and fulfilling. You know, we've talked a lot about the steps and the deadlines and all that, but I think it's important to acknowledge that this whole process, it can be a bit of a roller coaster, emotionally speaking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're
Yeah.
dealing with deadlines, paperwork, not knowing what the future holds.
Exactly. It's like you're juggling so many things at once, your job, your life, and then on top of that, you're trying to make sure you've dotted every I and crossed every T on this application.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle. It's easy to get caught up in all the stress and anxiety.
For sure. And I think sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves during this whole process.
Self-care is crucial, especially when you're dealing with something as big as immigration.
Totally. It's so easy to get tunnel vision, just focus on the application and nothing else.
But you got to make time for yourself. Do things that bring you joy, help you de-stress.
Like what are some of your go-to self-care tips?
Oh, it could be anything, really. Going for a walk, connecting with friends, reading a good book, anything that helps you unwind and recharge.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to step away from the application, clear your head.
Exactly. Give yourself permission to take a break. You'll come back to it with fresh eyes.
And I think it's important to remember that you're not alone in this.
Oh, absolutely not. There are so many people who have gone through this process who have faced similar challenges.
It can be really comforting to connect with others who understand what you're going through.
Yeah, those online communities, those support groups, they can be a lifeline.
It's a chance to share your experiences, get advice, just know that you're not in this alone.
And don't forget to celebrate your wins along the way.
Ah, that's a good one. It's easy to get so caught up in what still needs to be done that we forget to appreciate how far we've already come.
Exactly. So take a moment to acknowledge those milestones, whether it's gathering all your documents or hitting that submit button or getting that email saying your extension's been approved. Celebrate those little victories.
It's a good reminder to be kind to ourselves throughout this whole journey.
For sure. And remember, even though our deep dive is coming to an end, your exploration of Canada's immigration system doesn't have to stop here.
We've given you the basics, the foundation, but there's always more to learn, more to discover.
The key is to stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay true to your goals.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Canadian work permit extensions.
We hope you found it insightful, empowering, and maybe even a little bit fun.
And as you continue on your Canadian journey, remember, you've got this. We're cheering you on every step of the way.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of Canadian immigration. But until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep chasing those Canadian dreams.
See you next time.